It is time for MMA Strategy Show right here on Awesemo.com. I am Jason Floyd. That is a fighter, Pete Rogers Jr. Pete, it's a Monday night. I know we're usually not here on Monday nights, but we got a Wednesday morning fight card. Morning time, 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, start time. So how you feeling, Pete?
What's up, Jason? I am pumped for this week. Not so much this card. I mean, fights are awesome, but, this is an interesting card. Obviously, we're all excited for Saturday's card, but we're here to provide content for Wednesday. So excited to talk this fight card, see where you stand on some of these fights.
Oh, I'm interested to hear your talk, too. Trust me, because this is one of those cards that it's not it's not the most sexy of cards on paper. So I'm really interested to hear kind of what your take is on this. And, of course, if you got any questions, comments on the fights, line them up right now in our Slack account. Also, right here on YouTube. Before we get into the fights coming up here on Wednesday, let's take a look back at Saturday. those eyes, you kind of say a lot there. Look, we had some unexpected things that we did not see coming. Really, I think the biggest one is Joaquin Buckley losing the way he did, because look, that was a showcase fight. That was a showcase fight for Joaquin Buckley. But you know what? I go back to what you always say, Pete, is it's the fight game and anything can happen.
Yeah, this sport is crazy. This is why, in my opinion, MMA DFS is the most difficult, because you're taking so many things into consideration, and then you can throw about 90% of them out the window sometimes, because at the end of the day, it's a fight and you don't know how a person's mental state is, or it just takes one mistake in there, especially when you're dealing with high-level athletes. Joaquin Buckley, I did not see that coming. I did worry that, he could get overzealous at times, and I thought he might run into a punch or something. I didn't expect him to get hit with a head kick and then knocked out and finished. But it's kind of depressing, because I was so happy that Joaquin Buckley turned a corner in his career, rebounded from the Kevin Holland defeat. Now going forward, we're going to have to be a little careful, a little cautious with his matchups, right? I mean, because he has shown the susceptibility to get knocked out. And let me tell you, Jason, this, once you get knocked out once, that off switch is a little easier each time.
Yeah. I mean, look, it was a result we did not see coming. Li Jialing going out there and getting the victory as well against Santiago Ponzinibbio. It was look, when we talk about DraftKings, we're always looking at those 9K options. And, on the strategy show last week, we mentioned about Santiago as, hey, it's 2 years away from fighting. What's he going to look like? We did not know exactly what he was going to look like. Give all the credit in the world to Li Jialing to go out there and get the win. We talked about the main event, Max Holloway and Calvin Kattar was a must roster fight. And man, just, I saw someone, had a tweet. I want to say I saw it yesterday. They're like, because Calvin landed 134 strikes, I want to say.
Yeah.
If he's fighting somebody besides Max Holloway, it's an unbelievable performance. Unfortunately, It was Max Holloway, and Max Holloway, it was a dominating, great, amazing, whatever word you want to use, unbelievable performance by Max Holloway.
Yeah, one of the best, if not the best performance I've ever seen in my life. And I can honestly say that over 5 rounds. Finishes are finishes, and they're cool and all. But I think in a 5-round bout, okay, when the fight goes the distance and you can completely dominate your opponent, I value those wins a little bit more than fluky, finishes. Now, Calvin Kattar, probably one of the toughest human beings on this planet, to show and demonstrate all that toughness and get hit with so many shots. I mean, nearly 500 strikes, and, not take a knee and not get knocked out or finished. And, it showed you how much he wanted to be there. Max just had literally, can I say breakout performance? Because I don't know how else to say. I mean, Max is one of the best fighters to ever, fight in that 145-pound weight class, if not the best. But he leveled up, and it was just insane. And I think it comes down to the process for DFS, right? And going forward, my process and how I can always strive to improve is to know what fights to target. I feel like we hit the nail on the head of what fights to target. And for me, as long as my process is right, I'm cool with it. I know what fights I want to target on this card and every card going forward. And as long as you have exposure to both sides and close fights, I mean, you're talking about what? The first and, the number 1 contender and the guy who's number 2, or on any given day, Jason, one of these guys can have an outlier performance, and Max absolutely looked incredible.
Let me ask you this. Since this was the first time under the new DraftKings scoring system, is your roster construction thought process different heading into this card and Saturday's card as opposed to last Saturday's event?
Yeah, it is. And I'll tell you what, control time is going to be huge. Like even guys that win boring wrestling decisions where they just take them down and lay on top of them, those extra couple points that you can get from control time is huge. And I know like it can only be a difference of like 5 to 15 points or something like that if it's a decent amount of control time. But when you're talking about taking down a GPP, those extra 5 to 10 to 15 points, like that separates a lot from the pack. You know what I mean? Like it goes back to Hamzat Ameev. Like he didn't have the best performance, but he had a decent amount of takedowns and he had some control time. So like I am valuing grapplers a lot. I want early finishers and grapplers in my lineups.
Yeah, I'll tell you the one thing that does stick out to me is, while I did not play on FanDuel because, well, the contests on FanDuel just weren't good on Saturday, is that if you had Austin Lingo, oh, you cashed in because the amount of like 17 takedown offenses or something like that, some crazy number. Because we always talk about that of if you're playing on FanDuel, that is something you have to look at. You have to look at of if you have a fighter who potentially could stop a lot of takedowns. And I think that one fighter, I think we'll have to talk about that, is Roxanne Modafferi's opponent, because you would imagine Roxanne's going to try to work the takedown game. But, man, if you had Austin Lingo, that worked out for you on FanDuel.
Yeah, I mean, I felt like that first fight in the night was close. I mean, you saw Jacob Kilburn. I was trying to remember the name. Jacob Kilburn, he was tough. And, he could have had some moments, and he did have some moments, but Lingo looked good. His boxing looked good. Another fight that I did hammer, and it's just goes to show you, man, like on FanDuel and DraftKings, how the scoring really separates itself. And you bring up a great point of like, target the fighter that's going to be shooting like crazy and then pick the opponent on FanDuel.
Yeah, that's it's a great way to look at it. But Pete, let's get right into these fights coming up here on Saturday, or excuse me, Wednesday. I'm so used to saying Saturday. A Wednesday morning. Yeah, it's gonna be weird. By the way, just a little programming note. Myself and Pete will be live Wednesday morning, 8 a.m. Eastern time. I don't know if you saw this in the comments the other day. Someone asked, "What's the betting line?" Jason's neighbor's mowing the yard. I set the line.
I hope he's not. All right, like
minus 500
on a Wednesday. I don't know.
Usually, more times than not, it's a city, because I live in a circular neighborhood, and so we've got this big park area in the middle, and the city takes care of it. So that's there. Oh, it's like 7:30, 8 o'clock in the morning. They're there, man. It's. But looking forward to it. I'm an early riser anyway, so I don't know if I gotta give you a call, Pete. Man, I have a feeling like Pete's up like 5:30, 6 o'clock.
Depends. I mean, I will get my Dunkin'. I will be good to go. So make sure you guys are joining us Wednesday morning for Live Before Lock. Like, make your breakfast, come hang out, talk your lineups. Hopefully we don't have any cancellations. I mean, Abu Dhabi does have some great luck, so we shall see. But come hang with us Wednesday morning.
Look, I just can't wait for your next fight, and we walk into the hotel, and you're no shirt on. That's all I'm waiting for that.
Like Connor's entrance today. I don't know if I can pull it off yet, Jason. I think I got to add a couple zeros in my bank account and get like verified on Twitter before I start doing that.
Yeah. By the way, you see it right there on the screen, right there at the bottom of the screen. We've got a great promo going on over at Awesemo.com. Our MMA Weekly Pass, $2.57. We use a promo code Connor, CONOR. This offer is valid through January 23rd. Look, that's less than a cup of coffee. Got to take advantage of that deal. And it's all the great premium tools and contents we have over at Awesemo.com. If you want a full Awesemo Plus weekly pass, $29.95. Sign up right now, Awesemo.com/promos to get started today. Let's get right into it. Michael Chiesa, Neil Magny. Michael Chiesa, 7,900. Neil Magny, 8,300. That's on DK. On FanDuel, $15 for Chiesa, $18 for Magny. So not the typical price up on FanDuel in terms of the main event. And I was listening to both these fighters earlier today, and it was interesting kind of hearing Chiesa talking about of he understands the pressure that Neil Magny is going to bring. I guess from, how do you view this fight in terms of do you feel like that is going to create a lot of problems for Michael Chiesa?
I will say that, for DraftKings, this is a great fight to target. Like I said, going forward, I'm trying to figure out which fights I'm going to target, which I'm not. This is a fight I'm targeting both sides. And as far as the pressure of Magny brings great pressure and has great length. So that's usually what gives his opponents, problems. It's because he's so long, throws great straight punches. He's a guy that really works behind the jab. When you have a fighter who works behind the jab, they don't get too overzealous and they don't bring their hips into their opponent, giving and allowing takedowns to happen, which I think is important. I will say that Michael Chiesa looks really good at 170 pounds. It's crazy to think he used to make 155 pounds. And he's a dominant grappler, which is like the kryptonite to Neil Magny. Yes, Neil Magny can take opponents down and can be good offensively with his grappling. But as far as defensively, if you go back and you look at Magny's footage in his fights, he gets taken down and he does get dominated on the mat with somebody who has great top pressure. Michael Chiesa does have some great top pressure and, absolutely outclassed Rafael dos Anjos. And I don't think everybody in the world understands how good Rafael dos Anjos is on the mat. So, I think it's a very close fight, Jason. Now, I will tell you that Magny's pressure forward, if he goes forward and he doesn't allow himself to back up, towards that black line, I think that he can be good in the center of the cage, behind his length, defend some takedowns, because he does have some defensive wrestling. But it's if Chiesa can get him against the cage, really swallow those hips, put him on the mat, and get him down. I worry about control time for Chiesa, because Chiesa in his wins and who he's fought, he really just outclasses him on the mat. And then now you start to think of that zapping Neil Magny's, gas tank. So I'm splitting exposure here. I know the public really likes Neil Magny because of the size and the length. I am trying to take the grappler slightly heavier than the public because I worry about that control time. Magny's a volume type of guy, probably get you a decision win, maybe a late TKO, but that's unlikely. Whereas, Chiesa can, take down Magny, work a lot of top control and work towards a submission win.
One of the things that I found really interesting when Mike Chiesa was talking to the media, he goes, look, he really tried to stay close to home, did not go to the PI for this one. A lot of that was COVID reasons. He did not want to put himself and his teammates, but he said, one of the things he did have to do, he did go down to Arizona with a longtime training partner because, as he said, it doesn't necessarily have guys who are 6'3" with an 80-inch reach in his gym. So he did have to go out a little bit for this one. So that's obviously going to be something you play into in terms of that. Now, I'll mention a question from Cameron in the chat. He goes, thoughts on stacking this main event?
I don't know if I get to it in stacking because I feel like it's so silly, but I see this fight going one of two ways. Magny keeps it up on the feet and just picks apart Chiesa, or Chiesa takes down Magny, has a ton of top control. Yes, they could alternate rounds of doing so, but with so many fights on the card, I feel like there's probably better options. Stacking it really isn't like the Calvin Kattar Max Holloway fight, which I don't think was in the optimal. If you didn't have Max, you didn't really do all that well. But as far as this fight, I don't know if stacking's the way.
Yeah, if you didn't have Max Holloway as your captain on FanDuel, you didn't win.
Yeah.
I mean, but you have a lot of fights too. I think that's the other thing kind of put into in terms of this one. Look, Magny Chiesa is the reason you're going to turn on the fights on Wednesday morning, Wednesday afternoon. Main card starts at noon, so main event will probably be around 2:30ish Eastern time. So that is going to be something to pay attention to there. But it's a quality fight. It's a big fight for both of these guys. I feel like every time I go against Neil Magny, he wins.
Yeah, me too. He's a guy I really can't get right. So maybe he goes out there and has an outlier performance. But as far as this fight for my lineups, I'll probably make this a must-have just because of the 5 rounds and of how dominant they are in their areas of expertise. I think that if Magny wins, it's probably, a dominant win, decent amount of points. Chiesa, if he wins, he's going to have a ton of control time. And, he likes to pitter-patter his opponents on the mat, work towards a submission. So I'm excited for the fight. It's a split for me. Like, I'll probably lock it into my lineups and be like 55-45, to be honest.
Appreciate everyone's here on a Monday night watching the show live here. Of course, be sure to hit that thumbs up button. If you're not subscribed to also, hit that subscribe button right now. We got a ton of great programming here. We're trying to get over 50,000 subscribers right here on YouTube, so be sure to hit that subscribe button. So much great content to get you ready for NBA on the daily. Of course, we got the NFL conference title games this weekend as I'll be a little busy on Sunday. But looking forward to it, Pete.
Yeah, you made me a Bucks fan for the playoffs. Like, I'm rooting for you just because I would love to see you guys, win it all, and to see you, it'd be awesome. It would just be so cool.
Yeah, man, it's fun. It's fun. It's fun when you win. It's fun.
Yeah, right.
Let's go on to the co-main event. Warlley Alves against Munir Lazzez. 9,000 for Lazzez. As I recall, wasn't he, when he made his UFC debut, wasn't he one of the guys you had really pinpointed?
Yeah, I thought that, he's a sniper, and, he really lives up to his name. Like, he's so good at just picking his opponents apart. And, he was a heavy underdog in his previous bout against Abdul Razak Al Hassan. Went in there, had just like a masterpiece. He really did. He incorporated takedowns, angles, just being technically better everywhere. And he's tough. Like, he didn't get put down from a shot from Al Hassan. And I think that's really a feather in his cap. Goes to show you, like, okay, yeah, you can take a shot, kid. If you're not getting dropped by him, then I really like your chances against a lot of people within the division. Now, Warlley Alves is super, super talented, and I don't think it's a pushover by any means. Alves has been, pretty inconsistent in the UFC. Like, he's looked amazing in his wins and not so great in his losses. I mean, you could say that for a lot of people. But I do think that Lazzez is a name to circle here. And I understand that the odds might be a little bit too wide because Lazzez really only had one good showing. And we have seen 11 fights for Warlley Alves, 7-4 in the UFC. You talk about all of his experience and how he can get it done in multiple ways. I think that Munir Lazzez can as well. So I like Lazzez quite a bit at 9,000. As far as an underdog pick and Alves at 7,200, if you are a person that favors experience and you think that, wins could be fluky and it could have just been one nice win, then, you're going to get a significant discount on Alves here at 7,200. So this is a fight where I won't be splitting exposure so much. I will be just siding with Lazzez for the most part.
Well, something to remember is that Warlley Alves was actually supposed to take on Christian Aguilera, during these Fight Island cards. However, Christian pulled out of the fight in December, and now, Lazzez steps in. You look at the losses for Alves in the UFC. I mean, they're all notable fighters. Yeah. Randy Brown, submission loss, James Krause, TKO, Kamaru Usman, decision, Brian Barberena, a decision. And you forget, back in the day, 5 years ago, he beat Colby Covington.
Yeah, it goes to show you that MMA math, and I say it every week, MMA math just doesn't make sense. I think that Alves is super skilled. I think that he's just going to be, matched up. He's in a tough matchup here against Munir Lazzez. He needs to really mix things up in order to keep him guessing. Maybe he's underestimating Lazzez here because it is, only one fight, and he does have a win over Colby Covington. That is pretty huge. But I think that Lazzez checks a lot of boxes for me. He shows me that he really wants to win and enjoys fighting. The craziest thing is, like, Lazzez views Abu Dhabi as like home country. So this is like his home territory, and I always like a hometown fighter.
Yeah, you remember Dana had the story about how this one came about. Jordan, I appreciate you in the super chat. The simple answer is no. Cerrone did not throw the fight. No,
I think it's just a big mental test whenever you fight Conor McGregor, and that's the truth. Is I think there's title fights, and then there's superstar fights, and when you're fighting McGregor, he kind of brings a different element to the table, and some people get captivated by it. And let's be honest, Conor was the better man that night and just got all over the slow starting Cowboy Cerrone.
Of course, we'll talk more about Conor McGregor on Thursday on the Strategy Show, then on Saturday for Live Before Lock. Cameron says, and Cameron, appreciate you in the super chat, should pickles go on a grilled cheese?
I've never heard of that. I don't know where it came
I've never heard that either.
from. I appreciate you. You're a longtime listener. I mean, if you guys like pickles, my cousin owns possibly one of the biggest pickle companies in the world, Gorilla's Pickles. And I don't know if it's by your area, but he's in like all Targets and he's everywhere right now, Whole Foods. So if you like pickles, check out my cousin's pickles, Gorilla's Pickles. But Gorilla's
I did not know this about you.
Really?
That your family's in the pickle business?
Yeah, my cousin. Yeah, it's he's killing it, man. Like that company is huge now. But no, pickles should not go on grilled cheese. I don't know who the heck does that. That's weird.
Yeah, I have. That is a new one to me. That is absolutely a new one to me. I did not see that. But I mean, look, I'll say this about Lazzez. I think it also says something. I mean, look, on paper, this is not the deepest of cards in terms of name value. But I think it does say something that the UFC has put him in this spot, that they believe they might have something him here to put him in a co-main spot on ESPN.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's a showcase for them. They think, okay, we're going to make a name off of Alves here. And let's be honest, we know what promotions do and how they operate. That's exactly what they're thinking here.
Yeah, exactly. Let's move on to the card. And in terms of a fight that I don't know how you feel confident either way on this one. I mean, look, we joke about the 8,200, 8,000 fight. I didn't even see the salaries. I said, oh man. This is a fight that, I mean, if you talked about on the do not trust list, it's got to be this fight of Ike Villanueva and Vinicius Moreira. 8,200 for Ike, Vinicius 8,000, and then Ike is $17 on FanDuel, $14 for Vinicius here. I mean, I don't like, who do you trust?
You don't trust either of them, but I feel like you might need this fight in your lineup, Jason, because it's mid-priced, right? We always talk about how important mid-priced is to have, in your lineups. That allows you flexibility to get to everybody you want. In saying that, like, these guys are a low level. Like, they're both winless in the UFC. Ike Villanueva is a guy who has good hands on the regional scene, but he has been finished quite a bit as well. So, like, let's go right here. I can actually pop up one of my pieces of content. And Villanueva has been knocked out 5 times. Vinicius Moreira has been knocked out 3 times. Villanueva has been submitted 5 times. Vinicius Moreira has been submitted once. So, like, when these guys lose, they lose quickly. And that's why you see, single digits in their average, DraftKings scores. But the under in this fight is probably something you want to target. I don't foresee this going the distance. It's pretty obvious. Vinicius Moreira needs to get this to the mat. But the issue with that is he excels in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. And I talk about it all the time, is how a lot of Jiu-Jitsu fighters don't have the best setups and takedowns. They don't have the wrestling. And that, to me, like, that's something that needs to be addressed whenever you're a Jiu-Jitsu fighter. Now, Villanueva, if he keeps this fight up, he probably knocks out the Frankenstein Moreira on the feet. Because let's be honest, Moreira just going to sit there, walk forward, and sometimes actually just allows his opponents to put him against the cage, and he's a sit and duck there. So I'm siding with Villanueva here, and I do not feel good about it. As far as like betting, don't put your money on this. For DraftKings, probably have to split your exposure because they're both volatile, but it's Villanueva here for me. Experience, striking, seems hungry. I guess I'll go with Villanueva, but the submission loss is always worrisome against Moreira.
It's a straight up GPP fight for me. I mean, I don't trust it in cash at all. It's just not a fight that, I mean, look, the winner, you got a good chance is going to get over 100 points. Good chance. But you just don't side one way or the other. So to me, it's split your exposure in GPPs and just hope that you land the winner in your right lineup. I mean, that's the way I look at it.
Yeah, because they're both like, I can't really tell you who to feel comfortable with. Like, I mean, if I'm looking at the heat sheet right now, you got Villanueva, who has 3.1 strikes per minute. Moreira 2.79. I mean, granted, these are limited sample size, right? Because they both lost quickly in their fights, and they both have not had good performances. So the stats on this fight are a little tough to trust. I just think from, like, if you go back to fight footage and you look at what Villanueva has done, he has shown me that he can compete at a decent level. Moreira, outside of that Dana White Contender Series fight, just has not shown me anything.
Yeah, it's just one of those fights that you're just concerned with. By the way, you mentioned about, for people who are not aware, you do have new content up over at awesemo.com. Let everyone know what they can expect this week, not just with Wednesday's card, but also for Saturdays.
Yeah, so I have a ton of content, and I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you checked it out, make sure you guys go on awesemo.com, hit the MMA section, go down to articles. You can actually see all of the content that I put out there. I have, the heat sheet that a lot of people enjoy. I have Takedown City, which goes, deep dives into the takedowns allowed, takedowns landed in the UFC per fighter. We go over, some betting picks that I have, the heaters. I have some other stuff that's coming up as well, like questionnaire, where I have some, simple questions pertaining to each fighter's career that can be very, very helpful. So, head on over to awesemo.com or hit me up on Twitter at PTHeatMMA. You'll see everything, all the links that I post. But I really feel like they're extremely helpful and can win you guys some GPPs.
Let's move on. And before we'll talking in relationship with this fight of Roxanne Modafferi and Viviane Araujo, I do want to mention a question or comment, I would say. And it was about roster construction in terms of this. And it was from Cameron. He said, so many women's mid-price fights makes lineup construction weird to me.
Okay, we have Araujo there. I've seen it worse. I mean, I really have seen a lot worse and a lot more women MMA bouts on cards that make, DFS a little difficult. For this one, I don't think it's that hard. I mean, it's pretty obvious what Roxanne Modafferi excels at. I mean, she's really good with her jiu-jitsu, and she's robotic with her striking. But there's one thing you could say about Roxanne Modafferi: just don't underestimate her, because in matchups that you think she should lose, she wins somehow. She's just next level toughness, has a wealth of experience, nearly 50 MMA fights, 4 and 5 in the UFC, lots of experience on tough. Araujo, though, she's super dangerous.
So one of the things about Roxanne you got to mention, there is definitely a trend with Roxanne Modafferi. So if you go back to 2017, win, loss, win, loss, win, loss, win, loss, win.
She's doing the random Marcos. Okay, well, what does she do for her, Jason?
So she is due for a loss. Now, something to note here, she has gone to the decision in her last 2, 4, 5, 7 fights.
Wow.
6 fights. I mean, look, she is, you're not, Roxanne, she can, it's not flashy. I'm trying to be nice here.
Yes.
Nice. She's not flashy. I mean, that's just, if Roxanne is going to win a fight, it's going to be a slow-paced, dirty type fight. And what I mean by, getting it up against the cage, kind of, slowing everything down. So, if this fight's at range, I don't see how Roxanne wins.
Yeah, I will say that a lot of people think Modafferi is going to get knocked out every single time. She's only been knocked out once, Jason. She just somehow finds another gear, finds a way to survive. She's always threatening when it hits the mat and is always looking to take it to the mat. I will say that her striking has gotten better over the years. It's not as bad as it used to be. It used to be awful. And now it actually has gotten better. She has volume. And she kind of is just annoying, against her opponents, because she's hitting her opponents a lot, not truly effectively, but she's just always in their face. You know what I mean? And that type of fighter where they're always pressing you, always in your face, can give some people problems that normally shouldn't. So I think that Araujo obviously is the A-sided in this fight, has actually displayed some great knockout ability. So that's pretty rare in women's MMA. She's shutting people's lights off. And I will say that, she has great jiu-jitsu to rely on. So it's not like she's, she has defensive deficiencies when it hits the mat. Whereas, Roxanne has that edge over a lot of people, and that's kind of like an X factor. Araujo can match, if not excel, in the jiu-jitsu department. And I think that's a big thing here. Araujo is the more physical. I'm siding with Araujo, even though Modafferi makes a lot of fights closer than they should be. She's not a bad pump play though, Jason. I mean, women's MMA always close, always possibility of, armbar from guard. We almost saw that last week. It was close. But 7,100, you could do worse. It's 9,100 Araujo for me, but as far as like trusting that price, I'd probably go elsewhere.
Yeah, I mean, I think the one thing you always kind of worry about in women's fight that do go the distance is will you get enough points for the salary that you depend on? Of course, looking at the betting odds for this one, Roxanne Modafferi plus 270, Araujo minus 330. Fight goes the distance minus 270. So I should tell you something, of course. Will you want to make a bet on the fights? Don't make a bet without shopping the odds first. All you got to do is go over to awesemo.com. Right there at the top of the page, you see Odd Shopper. Sign up today to track your bets. Receive alerts when lines do move. Maybe you want to see that line. Maybe if it gets under 300 for some reason, which probably never happens, you can sign up today and so you know exactly where to place your bets. So check out Odd Shopper over there at awesemo.com. I mean, look, it's at 7,100 for Roxanne Modafferi. If she wins, and even if it's a low score, I'll take it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, she definitely has the ground skills to compete, if not control, if not, if she gets on top, right now you're bringing control time into it, and she could do better than projections. I just think that, Araujo, she looks really good, and I don't really see her takedown defense being bad at all. I would worry if, like, Modafferi has great sweeps. So maybe, Araujo's on top and gets swept. That's probably the only worry I would have here. But I think Araujo gets it done.
Next up, we got Matt Schnell taking on Tyson Nam. Tyson Nam, I'm very familiar with Tyson, known him for years. He's 8,400, 7,800 for Schnell, and then 17 for Nam on FanDuel, $14 for Matt Schnell. I mean, look, I think with Tyson, you know what he wants to do. Tyson wants to keep this fight on the feet. It's not to say that he doesn't have ground abilities. It's just he'll flat out tell you. He goes, I want to knock somebody out.
Yeah.
So Matt Schnell obviously is a guy that's been around for some time here. What's your take on this one?
Yeah, I mean, it's a close fight. I really think it's a really close fight because Matt Schnell is super talented. It's just that you can't really trust his chin to this point because, man, whenever he's matched up against a guy who can crack pretty hard, I always worry about him getting hit with the big shot because, like, you can even recall, like, in previous fights where Matt Schnell's on the bottom looking for like an armbar submission or a triangle and he gets hammer fisted, just one time and then a couple more following up on that. And Matt Schnell's lights go off pretty quickly. Losing to Alexandre Pantoja, nothing to get upset about there. Pantoja is super talented. The only worry I have is that, is getting hit by Nam. Like, because I don't know how he's going to be able to take the shot. As far as like striking and being technical, he's going to go back and forth with Nam. It's just if the big shot lands. Schnell probably strikes a little bit too long, has excellent jiu-jitsu abilities. Maybe he should go to the takedown well here, especially with how his career has been of facing, power punchers. I will have some Matt Schnell because I do believe in the talent. I really do believe in the talent. I think he's super talented. Now, in saying that, Tyson Nam seems like a guy who has just knocked out some crazy names. Like I remember back in the day when Eduardo Dantas was a big deal in Bellator, and he took a fight outside of Bellator. And guess who knocked him out? Tyson Nam. I mean, Tyson Nam is a guy who you cannot count out. It's the volume from Nam that is like the only worry for me because he does sit back, he does bob his head, he throw one or two headshots, doesn't really mix things up too much. But that's really all you need, right? Like, how can I complain about a guy that just had back-to-back knockouts? So, long story short, I think that Nam is the way to go just because I can't trust Schnell. Mm-hmm. Schnell's submission game off of his back is next level. But as far as, like, overall game, what I've seen, the eye test, I got to go Tyson Nam.
It's funny you bring up the Eduardo Dantas. That's actually how I got to know Tyson Nam. Because
really?
That happens, and then there was a contract between Bellator and him, and then so I got to know Nam at that point, and the attorney that was helping him out. Yeah, that's how I got to know Tyson Nam. And and something to note about this is, we're going to talk about Ricky Simone later on. They're best friends.
Really?
Train together. Ricky will go down to Hawaii. Tyson will come up to Portland. They both have done stuff at Team Wayama in California. So yeah, they're best buds. If you follow either one on social media, you'll see it.
Two talented fighters too. I really like that that pairing as far as teammates. Yeah, so I mean, these guys a lot. I think that Tyson Nam is super talented and is finally starting to break through despite being 37. I mean, Tanner in our chat says Nam KO'd 2 other guys on this card. That is true. Yes, he has, and that is pretty crazy.
Yeah. I mentioned about, a guy that you were on previously, with Lazzez. Another one you were on was Lerone Murphy, as he is taking on Douglas Silva de Andrade. Murphy, 9,200, 7,000 for Andrade, $22 for Murphy on FanDuel, $9 for Andrade. What's your take on this one? And I guess let me say this. How does Andrade pull off the upset?
Yeah, so this is a fight I'm targeting. And as far as me saying I'm targeting it, I think 7,000 for a De Andrade is crazy. I think that it's super, super cheap. I think it's a lot closer than not. I think that Murphy is super talented, and both these guys have KO percentages over 60%. Just KO percentages. Murphy has a KO percentage of 67%. De Andrade has a KO percentage of 73%. Crazy. De Andrade at this point of his career, he's getting older. He's 35. He can be out muscled in the cage. He can be outstruck and outwilled at moments. So that's kind of why I'm favoring Murphy in this spot. I think Murphy's the younger, hungry guy, has decent takedowns, good top pressure, and just good ground and pound. And ground and pound can really cause problems for a lot of people. I think that standing up, that De Andrade's power is legit. I mean, he has a ton of knockouts. His record sits at 26-3 overall. So, he's not a bad fighter at all. I think that you could do worse at 7,000. It's almost like how Li Jing Liang was like 6,900. And I said, that's so disrespectful that he's that cheap because he's so talented. This is a fight I'm targeting. I expect Murphy to win, come out victorious. But if De Andrade catches Murphy on the chin, I really wouldn't be too surprised. So I'll have a few lineups with De Andrade.
And looking at the prop bets on this one, it's very clear what the odds makers think. Murphy wins by TKO KO plus 110.
Yeah, they think that his power is legit, and I do think it is as well. I mean, his most recent win is huge. So in a way, he's going down in competition, but against a very, very dangerous guy who can match him on the feet. This matchup should be fireworks. Split your exposure, but lean heavier towards Murphy.
Now, a matchup that was actually supposed to be on Saturday's card got moved back a couple of days because of, I believe it was COVID reasons. Omari Akhmedov and Tom Breese, 7,500 for Akhmedov, 8,700 for Breese, 19 for Breese on FanDuel, $13 for Akhmedov. Tom Breese, I think, is a guy that people were at one point. I mean, people were very high on this guy, and then it kind of some various things happened, and people's love for him kind of gone down here. We've seen Akhmedov, in some notable opportunities. So what's your take on this one?
I will say that this is a tough fight, and it's a tough fight because of the X factors, right? Because Tom Breese, has been a hype prospect for a very long time, but he's battled anxiety issues, which has basically limited his potential. So, I want to see him, motivated with a clear mind and going out there. And we saw it recently, the disrespect went a little too far. His great knockout over KB Burler. And, the issue here is that fight probably shouldn't have ever happened. It was like Tom Breese was at true UFC level. And I don't think that KB was really at that point yet, because Breese should be breaking into the rankings if he's not there already. Whereas Omari Akhmedov, just coming off of this fight against Chris Weidman, it was a close fight. That was back and forth, and Akhmedov does fatigue over the rounds as they go on. But Akhmedov is a dangerous guy, and not really a pick that really makes people jump out of their seat. He does everything decent, nothing too spectacular, mixes great takedowns. I will say he has excellent takedowns and has landed quite a bit in the UFC. So, we know Tom Breese is a good southpaw, long, rangy striker, throws good teeps to the body, excellent hands, and supposedly has great jiu-jitsu. He's a black belt in jiu-jitsu. But, I think that if he gets put on his back and Omar Akhmedov is on top of him, or just chains together takedowns, I think it could be a long night. Now, this might not be one of my favorite fights to target, Jason, just because I feel like both guys are so skilled. I don't really see either one of them putting each other away. Like, I can't visualize Tom Breese really putting Akhmedov away after what Akhmedov has really withstood in the cage. Akhmedov's grinding type of style and potential control time makes him a better pick, in my opinion. You're banking on a quick KO from Tom Breese, but I think that's tough. I'm slightly leaning towards Akhmedov due to his durability and potential for control time.
Yeah, I mean, you talk about durability. He's gone to 7 straight decisions for Akhmedov. Decision win against Kyle Noak, split decision win against Abdul Razik Al Hassan, a majority draw versus Martin Vettori. Then he scored 3 straight wins. Tim Boach, Zach Cummings, Ian Heinisch. And then you mentioned about that loss to Chris Weidman. Yeah, it's Tom Breese is a guy you just kind of, in a way you're like, man, where's his head at? And you mentioned about some of the great things there. We'll move on to Ricky Simón. Of course, Ricky was actually supposed to take on Brian Kelleher, but of course that fight not happening here. Now Ricky Simón, the second highest option on DraftKings at 9,400. His opponent Pirrello 6,800. He's $8 on FanDuel, and for Ricky $21. Obviously, the price tag jumps out to you. It's a short nosed opponent making his UFC debut. How much of a chance do you give him?
Well, I will say short notice opponents sometimes are the most dangerous. They got nothing to lose. Like they're coming in, they're, being brought in to lose, essentially, just to kind of fill the card and save the card. So Ricky Simón is a tough test for your first UFC fight because he does so many things well. He strikes well, but it's his grappling and it's his wrestling that really leaves a mark on all of his opponents. He takes them down at will, has such a high rate of work. Like, when you think of a guy that outpaces and outworks Ray Borg, like it kind of blows your mind. And then he does it in a dominant fashion. You're like, okay, well, Ricky Simón is legit outside of the Uriah Faber loss, getting losing to Rob Font. Look at what Rob Font is doing. Rob Font is so talented. I think that Ricky Simón is a great fighter for this division. And I do like Gaetano Pirrello, just probably not in this type of matchup against a wrestler, because if you watch Pirrello's regional tape, man, he is exciting. So if you want a guy that can get you an early win, Pirrello's one of those guys that can get you a quick knockout, because that's what he's going to need to do. And he's going to need to press Ricky Simón and work towards a finish. Pirrello is super dangerous in striking, like great pressure. I do worry about, Ricky Simón running into a knee. I have seen Pirrello throw great knees up the middle whenever you're facing a wrestler. You show an uppercut, you show a knee, it makes them question that, their ability to go in there and take you down. Now, regionally, you saw Pirrello get taken down and kind of be out of place when it hits the mat. I kind of think that's what's going to happen. I think there's levels to this game, and Ricky Simón's just going to ragdoll him, so to speak. As the fight goes on, it favors Simón. It really does. Pirrello's dangerous round 1. After that, Simón coasts. That's basically how I look at it. I'll probably throw Pirrello in just a few for fun, but Simón's 9,400 and he's legit.
Does the price point concern you in terms of DraftKings?
I don't know. I don't know if it concerns me because there are a ton of ugly fights on this card, Jason. This is not my favorite card by any means. And I look at him and I'm like, at least I know what to expect out of Ricky Simón. At least I know what he's going to do. Say he takes down Pirrello and has a ton of control time and just keeps taking him down, controls him for a little bit, takes him down. Even standing up, he's not a liability. He got caught with one big shot from Uriah Faber, who had a crazy performance. But outside of that, Ricky Simón, he's a staple in this division. And Pirrello going forward will be a name to circle, just not in this matchup.
Yeah, it's Ricky is. I've known Ricky now for multiple years, so he's always kind of a guy that I want to see. Well, it should be a win for him here. Of course, this is the MMA Strategy Show right here on Awesemo.com. If for whatever reason you can't watch our shows live and you want to download the audio version of the show, you can do that on the Awesemo Podcast Network. Just go to awesemo.com/podcast. All these sports have their own individual feeds, or if you just want all in one feed, there's an Awesemo feed there as well. So be sure to download the show, leave a 5-star rating and review for your chance to win a free month of Awesemo Plus Platinum. Good luck. Of course, our podcast is over there. I'll tell you what, I listen to a lot of our stuff on the Awesemo Podcast Network just because, I'm doing things around the office. It's a little easier for me to listen to it as opposed to watch it on YouTube. But of course, I do appreciate everyone that is here on YouTube. Now, when you talk about fighters on this fight card that I may be the most interested in as a long-term value, that's Mudaerji. He's someone I'm really interested to see as he develops in this UFC flyweight division.
Yeah, I mean, I think that Mudaerji is a great name to circle. He's facing Zaruk Adashev, who is actually a friend of mine. So I am going to be rooting for Zaruk a lot. I shared the same corner room with Zaruk when we both fought for Bellator, and we became friends and friends with his whole family and all that. So I'm super pumped for Zaruk. Now, in saying that, I think that he knows this isn't an easy fight. Like, Sue is a very tough opponent, especially for the division, because he has a significant reach advantage, a 7-inch reach advantage to be exact. His reach sits at 72 inches for their division. Now, that is a lot. I will say that, Zaruk is better than what he showed against Tyson Nam, and I can explain his style. He likes to blitz a lot. So he was a glory kickboxer and does mix in some takedowns as well. Lots of blitzes. So when you're fighting a fighter who blitzes a lot, sometimes you can get caught off guard, and then you're trying to wait for them to stop, and they're not stopping. So you're getting outflurried and picked apart, so to speak, before you can even get going. That's how I think Zaruk Adashev needs to go this route. Because if he sits back, I think he knows that this is a tough fight and can get picked apart from the long, rangy, dangerous guy. Now, bias aside, you guys know I don't like rostering fighters who have just been knocked out and returned too quickly, especially when they're facing powerful fighters or powerful strikers. That's kind of what we have here, where Adashev is returning a little too quick from a KO loss against a dangerous Mudaerji. Sue does have a significant experience advantage, sits at 13-4. Zaruk in MMA is 3-2, despite his extensive glory kickboxing background. Me personally, I'm rostering Zaruk a lot. I'm pulling for him because I think that he is better. But I do think that as far as unbiased opinion, I understand why Mudaerji's 9,300 sits nearly at a -400. I understand why you're going to be extremely exposed to Mudaerji, and I think it's smart.
Yeah, I mean, I think the only thing you kind of concern with is the price point at 9,300. Just that's to me the only thing. I mean, and look, that one of the things that's tough for me about DFS is we're in the fight game.
Yeah,
we have all these relationships with all these different people in the fight game. Of like, there's times where you just you have a great relationship with someone in the fight game, and sometimes you're maybe more putting that guy in your lineup as a that's my buddy type thing, or I like that guy, as opposed to sometimes listening to your brain.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, it's like a homer pick for me, of course. Like I'm going to be taking Zaruk a lot because I do think that he can catch opponents off guard. I think that the UFC, though, whether they're upset with Zaruk's manager or whatnot, they're not giving him easy matchups. As a guy that took a fight on short notice against Tyson Nam, now you're putting him against Mudaerji. Yes, it's two strikers, but come on, man. Like Mudaerji's, he seems special.
Yeah. It to me, it seems like a showcase fight a little
That's
bit
what
here.
I'm saying. Like it's a tough fight.
Get
your exposure to this fight, guys. Like definitely expose yourself to this fight.
Then we got Dalcha and Perez here. Dalcha -135 betting favorite, +115 for Marcus Perez. Any thoughts on potentially going with Perez here?
I thought about it, and I think the only way I thought about it was if he goes and catches Dalcha in a submission, because I do think that as far as striking, yeah, it'll be back and forth. But Marcus Perez coming off of the knockout loss to Dricus du Plessis, and you guys know I don't like targeting fighters coming off of a knockout loss against explosive athletes. And Dalcha Lunga here is a decorated judoka, great judo throws, but has impressive punching power and aggressiveness, and hits really, really hard. You can see that in the fight with Dequan Townsend. I will say, though, that Dalcha keeps his chin straight up in the air. And when he keeps his chin straight up in the air, Jason Floyd can go in there and hit you with a 2-piece and knock you out. So you gotta be, you gotta be careful.
Whoa.
So Dalcha is the way to go in this fight. I do think that him being able to go in the center of the octagon, dictate whether it's standing up or on the ground, based on his judo. Just got to be careful for the submission game of Marcus Perez, who is absolutely talented.
Man, throwing daggers at me over here. I love it. I love it.
Sorry.
Hey, look, we've got to bust each other's balls every once in a while, man. You got to do that. I'm with you there. Let's move on because we are kind of coming up here on about an hour's notice here. Figueiredo and Jerome Rivera. I know Jerome Rivera. I talked to him probably about a month ago. And the biggest thing that I took away from the conversation was he goes, I've laid out a roadmap to victory. And, after what happened in his UFC debut and now having a full fight camp to get ready for this one, but this is a tough task for him.
Yeah, he's being brought in to lose. And as a fighter, you have to recognize that, it happens. Like even regionally, you're being brought in to lose. I mean, Figueiredo, but when you're being brought in to lose, that's an opportunity because you can make a name off of your opponent. Like he goes in there and beats Davison Figueiredo's brother. That's crazy. And Figueiredo is not his brother. Don't get it twisted, but he is skilled. Good striker, has decent jiu-jitsu as well. I shouldn't say decent because the Figueiredo brothers have good jiu-jitsu, but he doesn't seem to be nearly at the level of his brother. So don't think that, he's just going to go out there and wipe the floor with Rivera. Should be competitive, but Rivera's path to victory usually is through the submission game. And I think that's not a good recipe going up against Figueiredo. So Figueiredo here, mid-priced, 8,500. I like him quite a bit. 91% finish rate of his 11 victories. I like him. I think that he doesn't really have to worry about getting knocked out too much in this bout. Potentially only worry is getting blanketed from up top from Rivera, but even on bottom, could sweep, could work towards a submission. Just seems to be talented. It's in the blood for sure, but it's definitely not Davis and Figueiredo.
Yeah. Look, I think that it's, I think you kind of understand what this is going to be here. But it should be, look, I think it's a fight that you definitely have to look at. I think it's definitely a fight that you have to look at. So we'll see as we go on here. We'll move on to our next fight, and that is Mike Davis and Mason Jones. This fight came together here not that long ago. So what's your take on this one?
I will say of the 7K options, Mason Jones is a super talent. He really is. He's a regional double champ. Coming in at 7,400, making his UFC debut, undefeated fighter. I mean, anytime you guys see an undefeated fighter in the 7K range or even 6K range, target them. They're undefeated for a reason, and being undefeated in MMA is tough. Davis here is one of my favorite fighters in the UFC, and he's not a big name. I really like his style. I've been following him through like training camps and training footage from like Tiger Muay Thai back in the day, and I think that he's so explosive, and you saw what he did against Thomas Gifford. He can mix it together and put together wins, whether it's striking, where he's so dynamic, has so much power. You saw it on the Contender Series against Sadiq Youssef. I mean, he's so talented in that department, and Mason Jones has excellent hands. So this matchmaking is amazing. I think that they're not giving Mason Jones an easy fight by any means. And I think that Davis can wrestle when he needs to as well. It's going to be a tough order to come in here and take out Davis. 8,800. I like him quite a bit, but of the underdogs, Jason, you could do worse than the undefeated Jones at 7,400.
Now, when you talk about the biggest fighter on DraftKings in terms of salary, Umar Nurmagomedov, 9,500. I think people are obviously going to fall in love with the last name. Habib will be in his corner, but is he worth the price tag?
I don't know if he is, honestly. Like, I don't know if he is. I think he's talented, but he's not, he's not Habib. He brings quite a different style. He has like a ton of kicking volume, and that's pretty crazy. The dexterity in his legs is pretty nice. Lots of front kicks, a lot of round kicks, lots of question mark kicks. Throws a ton of kicks. The problem with when you throw a ton of kicks, you're always susceptible to be, countered and hit with a big shot if you're lazy. And Morozov is talented. Like, Morozov is good. I was watching his tape, and I'm like, man, This guy mixes together great punching combinations, good takedowns, scrambles well, has been out wrestled in the past and in some instances, but seems to be live. So like this fight on DraftKings is separated so much because of Nurmagomedov's name. And you're paying for the name and you're not getting the Khabib talent. I think that Nurmagomedov is tough. I think that he's a name to circle for sure. But as far as paying 9,500, I'd probably go to Simone and prefer Simone despite Nurmagomedov's like entire game. I expect him to win here. I expect Nurmagomedov to win. I expect Morozov to not go down easy, but I think it's going to be a decision.
And I think it's another example of where you got to look at those ownership projections that we have over at Awesemo.com. Of course, if you want to get access to our projections, sign up right now for MMA Weekly Pass. Got a great promo going on right now. MMA Weekly Pass for just $2.57. This offer does expire on January the 23rd. All you got to do is use a promo code Conor, CONOR. Take advantage of that deal. That is something to me that you got to take advantage of in terms of this one. One more matchup, female matchup that's going to kick off the fight card. Victoria Leonardo at plus 165. Any thoughts on taking the underdog here?
I mean, not really. I think that she's talented. She needs to go the grappling route. She has been knocked out on the regional scene. And I think that Fiorot here at 8,900, I think she's talented. I really do. I think this is a good fight. I do. I think it's a good fight. It's good matchmaking. But Manon Fiorot, I think, just puts things together better. And I don't have to really worry about her, whereas like Victoria Leonardo does seem to have some issues with taking a shot, has been rocked, staggered, knocked down from a head kick, knocked out from a head kick. Probably will look to wrestle here, but Manon Fiorot just checks a lot of boxes for me. I think that she's able to keep it on the feet, good aggressiveness. I like her quite a bit. I just don't know if the price tag is correct. Obviously, women's MMA is usually closely contested bouts. And if, you have two debuting fighters, maybe you don't really see the true self. You see like a shell of themselves because of the nerves and everything. So I wouldn't hate the Leonardo pick. I just feel like there's some other, like I'd rather take Jones at 7,400, who has 70% finish rate and has good hands and can actually get towards a win, and he's undefeated. But Fiorot here at 8,900, she's okay.
Yeah, so let's go down the fight picks. Let's start right at the main event, Neil Magny against Michael Chiesa. I am so torn on this one.
Yeah, I take DFS out, and we're talking fight pick alone.
My gut says Neil Magny.
I don't know what to do. I say Chiesa.
Alves and Lazzez.
Lazzez.
I'll agree with you there. Villanueva, Moreira.
Villanueva.
I'll go Villanueva as well. Give me Araujo against Modafferi.
Yep, same.
Nam against Schnell.
Nam.
Give me Murphy.
Yep.
Akhmedov Breeze is when I'm. Why do I see an Akhmedov split decision win coming?
That's what I see coming. Akhmedov for me.
Ricky Simone.
Ricky, baby.
Mudaerji. I think he'll. Are you going to go with your heart?
I'm going with my boy. I'm going with my boy Adashev. Total bias. So don't listen to me on this fight. Adashev.
Then Dalcha and Perez.
Going Dalcha, Lungambula.
Yeah, I like him as well. Give me Francisco against Rivera.
Yeah, give me Figueiredo.
Mike Davis versus Mason Jones.
Davis, close fight.
I'm gonna say Jones pulls off the upset.
Ooh, I like it. I mean, he's good. He is good.
Nurmagomedov against Sergey. Give me Umar.
Close fight. A lot closer than what the name says, but Nurmagomedov for me.
Leonardo and Farhat.
Yeah, give me Fiorot.
Yeah, I'll go the same way there. Of course, I'll go in to see if there's any questions in the chat before we get out of here for this edition of the Strategy Show. Appreciate everyone who tunes into the Strategy Show and Live Before Lock. Of course, Live Before Lock will be for the Wednesday card. We have 2 UFC cards this week. The UFC card on Wednesday, Live Before Lock, 8 a.m. Eastern time. So keep it locked here for the fight. And, of course, you got to check out Awesemo.com. all of Pete's content that he has up there. So be sure to check that out. Anything else, Pete, you want to hit on before we get out of here?
No, grab your coffees. Come hang with us on Wednesday. Keep it locked to awesemo.com and pay attention to the MMA articles tab. And then what you can do is you can just see all the articles that all of us here at Awesemo put together. If you want to see what I write, click on my name, go to the author, see everything that I put out there. And I think it's really, really helpful for all DFS, MMA betting, all that. And yeah.
And that is good. Do it for this edition of MMA Strategy Show. We back on Wednesday morning, live before lock.